I'm adding this extra video on VC verbs because kind of a bunch of people got question number 3 or sentence number 3 wrong on the quiz, which the correct analysis of the sentence was a VC verb. And I know that VC verbs, partly because they're less common than VT and others, they do trip people up a lot, and so I thought I'd just add a little extra time here. I don't have a script for this, so I'm going to try to keep it short. But if you look at the description here, this is your handy cheat sheet that I hope everybody still has and they still use when they're trying to do their sentences. If we look first of all at this category, the VC verbs, if you look at the formula, you have the VC verb, and the things that can follow the VC verb in a sentence include the noun phrase direct object, which is mandatory, but then there can be 3 different choices for what follows the noun phrase direct object. And the one I'm most concerned about here is the adjective phrase object complement. Okay, and it's probably, I don't know, maybe less frequently used than a noun phrase object complement, but it is something that can follow, and because sometimes if you're looking for a 2-place transitive verb, a VC or VG, you're looking for noun phrases, and with the VC it's just not the case. So in some ways, you know, this infinitive phrase object complement is something even more rare, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. We'll maybe deal with it in another chapter. But these 2 choices, the noun phrase object complement and the adjective phrase object complement, are very similar in nature to what we have following a linking verb or a be verb. An adjective phrase predicate adjective, or a noun phrase predicate noun. So again, following these 2 kinds of verbs, there are adjective options and noun phrase options. And we already talked about how in a sentence that has a VC verb, that the relationship between the direct object and the object complement is very similar to the relationship between a noun phrase subject of a linking verb or a be verb, and then the what follows the adjective phrase or the noun phrase. There's a kind of identity here going on. All right, so let me stop here for a minute and I'll put on the sentence that was on the quiz. In addition to giving some more attention to VC verbs, this video can also help reinforce maybe how to go about analyzing a sentence, whether it's with using a tree diagram or not. But I'd like to encourage students to, instead of looking at each individual word and say, what kind of word is this and what is it, look at the overall structure of the sentence. First, identifying where is that verb, the whole verb. All right, so what is the main verb of the sentence? And before even worrying about whether it's VC or not, looking at it, make sure we have the whole verb, and then also what the status of that verb is. And then, so would is past tense of will. Will is present, would is past. So it's past conditional, this is a modal. Okay, so that part should be fairly straightforward. But what comes after the verb? We want to identify slots. Here's your noun phrase slot. Here's your verb, which we've already identified. What comes after the verb? All right, here, this is a noun phrase, the boys. And then this is the tricky part about the VC verb that has an adjective phrase object complement. I don't know what people thought maybe that was instead, that maybe they thought it was just an adverb, which, you know, you can stick an adverb anywhere at the end of a sentence after a verb. But happy is an adjective, and it's describing, in a way, the boys. Okay, so this is what I was saying before about the similarity of be verbs and linking verbs, the subject and the predicate noun or predicate adjective. You know, there's kind of an identity here. You know, boys. Yikes. Are the ones that are happy. They're happy boys. So there's an identity of sorts between them. And that's what we often will find with a VC verb and the object complement that follows it. If it had been, well, never mind. Let me stop there about that. Another thing that you can do, and it's really works better with nouns than with verbs, is with a VC verb you can usually insert an infinitive phrase here of to be. Stacy's plan would make the boys to be happy. That sounds kind of corny, but there is that kind of, it helps identify that identity between boys and happy. Okay, finally what I did is I pulled out a few sentences from the exercise at the end of chapter 4, which we were working on, that have VC verbs just for a little bit of extra practice. I found that when I've worked individually with students in the past and they say, I'm having trouble with this type of verb, VC, VG, or linking, whatever it is, after trying to explain it again, I usually will give them a bunch of sentences to try to reinforce how they work, so if they're not all mixed up with other kinds of verbs. So here we have a few different examples. Number 13, and this is something that our textbook does it. I don't know why. I have no idea why it does it. Some of the sentences are actually two sentences together. So the first part of the sentence, number 13, has to do with John F. Kennedy, but then there's a separate sentence that says, the media made him a shining knight. And then what I would do first, as I mentioned before, I want to identify the verb, and then see what comes after the verb. I mean, the media is, of course, the noun phrase subject, and made is past tense verb, and we haven't determined what it is yet, but of course I'm including it here because it's a VC verb. So what do we have that's following the verb? Him is a pronoun. Okay, and it's because it's only 3 letters long, it might seem like it's just going to be a little part of something else, but it fills the noun phrase direct object slot all by itself. And then a shining knight is the object complement, and it's a noun phrase object complement. And clearly here, this testing thing I gave you works. The media made him to be a shining knight. So there's that identity between him and shining knight. The two are the same thing. Okay, so the next one, number 19, is another one that has an adjective phrase predicate, adjective phrase object complement. So here we have, again, another pretty simple verb. The status is present, and then what's following the verb, everyone is an indefinite article, an indefinite pronoun, and it fills the noun phrase direct object slot all by its lonesome. But what comes after that? Equal is not a noun, it is an adjective. It's describing, so once again, it's describing everyone. Everyone is going to be equal. And again, with the adjectives, it doesn't work that well, but you could get the sense of the internet makes everyone to be equal. You can kind of see that there. And then finally, this last sentence, another short verb, it's present tense, and then it will be a VC, but how do we know that? Well, we look afterwards. After the noun, we have hyperactive children, which is a noun phrase, an adjective and a noun, and then troublemakers is another noun phrase slot that we have to determine what it is. Okay, so what do we do with our complements that come after the verb? Teachers often label hyperactive children to be troublemakers. The children, they're not necessarily troublemakers, but they are labeled as troublemakers. And so again, you get that sense of there's an identity between the two things. So I hope that helps. If anyone out there has an idea for what kind of a short extra video like this could be useful to them, I wish you would tell me. I'd be happy to throw it together. Okay, so good luck.